my favorite conversations to have with anybody, if we're getting into deep, real deep type of conversations is, look, if you had one thing to teach your kids, what would it be? If you had one thing, not 7 things, not 22 keys to success, 3 keys to a happy life. I'm talking one thing, what would it be? One thing, if you have one thing, what would it be? So for me, I have a 4-year-old and I have a 2-year-old. And my 4-year-old son and my 2-year-old son, they're watching daddy, and there's so many things I can teach these guys, right? I have another one on the way. My wife and I are expecting a daughter right now as our 3rd one. But as a parent, I think if I had the one conversation with my kids and I'm going to tell them one thing, what would it be? Because in life, I've always been so curious to talk to people and folks who have built big businesses, big franchises, big families, healthy what was the one thing? 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 And I've heard so many of them, so many more over the years, that for me, from all the studying I've done, I've come out with one thing. This is the one thing above all, that's the most important thing that I plan on teaching my kids, that also I strive to teach people that I mentor as entrepreneurs, because I have yet found to have one thing be above this. Now, let me tell you what some of the things that you and I have heard about when you ask people and say, what's the one thing? Many of us have heard some people say, well, you got to learn to control your emotions. It's more important than anything else. Okay, that's a good point. You got to take care of your health, because your health's got to come before your wealth. Makes sense, very valid. You got to learn how to hustle and make money. Sure. You got to learn how to love people. You hear that one a lot. Love is the most important thing. Love is this, love is that. Great, no problem. You got to have a relationship with God. You got to do what you love, right? You got to work hard. All valid, all great. But is it the one thing? Some may say God is the one thing. You know, integrity is the one thing. Work for a nonprofit, one thing. Give back. Money isn't everything. Gratitude, save your virginity, respect, marry the right person, all valid. Pray, meditate, read, discipline, stay in school, avoid drugs and alcohol. So far, everything makes sense. Compassionate, care about people, give back, slow down a little bit in life. Don't follow the majority. All of this stuff, they're all good things. But what is the one thing? To me, it's the one thing. What's the one thing? You know, I remember when I first got started in business, I was so overwhelmed because this person would say, do this, do this, do this, do this, do that. And I was all over the place. I asked, what's the one thing? I don't want 17 things. What's the one thing? And I'll never forget the one thing I got in business, and that became my absolute obsession. People ask me today, what's your one thing in business? You know, what's the one thing in this? So to me, the one thing to teach your kids, or the one thing for you to master, comes down to this. The one thing. And the one thing, all of this goes within that one thing. And that's what it is. Let me tell you what it is. The one thing is for you and I to learn how to process issues. That's the one thing. You see, if a person learns how to process issues, that person generally ends up becoming a president, a governor, a CEO of a company, a head coach for a team, a head coach for an organization. It doesn't matter. People who lead larger organizations, they learn how to process issues. Now you may say, Pat, what do you mean process issues? Are you telling me processing issues is above all of this? Yes. What do you mean by that? Let's explain it. Watch this. If a person knows how to process issues, when you and I are absolutely furious with somebody or something happens, in the mind, while you're irritated and you want to tell them off, if you know how to process issues, here's how you go through it. You say, if I tell her this and she's going to come back and say this and it's going to go back and say this, then I'm going to leave a mark and she's going to get upset. I'm going to get upset. I'm not going to sleep good. Our relation's not going to be good. We're not going to talk for the next 2, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. What if my kids do this to me? You're just going to go deep with it and you just say, I'm going to stay quiet. Now, this is if we learn how to do this, processing issues. 2, health. If you learn how to process issues, you're going to say, my back hurts. Why does my back hurt? My ankle hurts. Why does my ankle hurt? Why is my energy? Why am I sleeping and so on? Maybe I'm not exercising enough. Maybe I need to get my diet. I'm eating too much sweets. I'm eating too many burgers, but it's all back to processing issues. Hustle. If you're struggling financially, you don't have any money, you're going to sit there and say, why don't I have any money? Why is it that we're broke? Why is it that we don't live in a nice place? Why is it that we have no money in place? Am I working hard enough? Why do I watch so much TV? Why is it that everybody I talk to, I know all the TV shows that are going on, NBA Housewives, I know CSI, I'm already telling you shows in the podcast. I don't watch a lot of shows. I know every single event. I watch every single basketball game. I know too much about, I'm not hustling enough. If you process, you'll hustle. Love. What is love? My relationship is going bad. Why is my relationship with my dad not that good? Why is my relationship with my friends not that good? Why is my relationship with my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my husband, my wife, my kids not that good? Am I loving it? What is love? Is love just a feeling? Is it my wife keeps telling me, you don't tell me you love me anymore. And I told her that, well, love is something you already should know, that I love you. It's not that I have to tell you I love you. Give me a break. I married you already. I've given you a life. You should already know I love you. But then she tells me, no, you don't show that you should love me. So what is love? Let me go research. What is love? What is really love? Oh, love is an action. Love is a verb. So if love is a verb, am I showing love? Man, I need to start showing love. So what do? When's the last time I bought her flowers? It was 6 years ago. I need to send a dozen roses. Then you'll learn how to love because you process the issue of what love is. God. You know what? I don't believe in God. Now, let me tell you, something happened very strange the other day when I was saying this, and I just say, you know what I'm going to try? I'm going to try to see if this prayer stuff works, and I'm going to go out there and do this, and is there really a God? If there isn't a God, I read this, that religious video that came out by Bill Maher, and he's all about there is no God, and he goes and he calls these people at the Catholic Church, and they talk about this, and all the, and I heard this other guy that talk about Scientology and do this, and I went and Mormon, so which one is it? Is it Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventist, a Christian Catholic, Mormon? Which one do I go with? Is it? But should there be a God? If there isn't a God, maybe did man create the earth? Who created the earth? Is it the sand that turned into human? So are we in evolution from the, gorilla to this on to what? So, but if you're curious, then eventually you're going to figure out that there is probably a higher power or there isn't for you because you're learning how to process issues. If I just tell my kid, you ought to believe in God because of X, Y, Z. You should believe in God and go to church. I'm going to force him. He's not going to want to do it. Instead, I'm going to tell him, tell me what your questions are about it. Why don't you go research it and come out with all the different arguments. So I want to teach the kid how to think. I want to teach the kid how to process the issue. So many times kids are forced to be raised in a church, they don't even want to touch it anymore. It's forced. I'd rather have you process the issue. So who's this Jesus guy? Do you believe in the Jesus guy? Do you think it's real? Maybe it's fake. Maybe he's a maniac. Maybe it's not real. What do you think about this other guy, Joseph Smith guy? What do you think about the Dianetics guy? What do you think about this guy, L. Ron Hubbard? What do you think about this other guy, Baha'u'llah? What do you think about this Muhammad guy? What do you think about this prophet guy? What do you know about him? You think why did all these guys talk about God? What is this 10 Commandments all about? It's a really legit. This is learning how to process issues. If there is a sense of curiosity and I can teach somebody how to process issues, they'll eventually come to a conclusion here. Do what you love. Do what you love. Process issues. Is it truly about me doing what I love or what is me loving? It's like I had a conversation with somebody the other day and says, you know what, I just don't know if I love this anymore. And I said, what is this? He says, what do you mean? I said, you said you don't love this anymore. So what is this? He says, I don't understand the question. I said, okay, you don't love this anymore. What is this? And he says, well, this is insurance and financial service. I said, that's this to you? Because that's not what this is to me. He says, what do you mean? I said, do you love people? I think so. I said, so do you do this business because the product is, so you think you're going to go do real estate and fall in love with bricks? You think you're going to go do pharmaceutical sales and fall in love with medicine? So what is this? Redefine what this means to you. To me, this means people. And I love people. I'm curious about people. So every day I get to work, I'm touching people and learning about people. I'm so curious about that. Oh, I never thought about it that way before. So we processed it together. Now he's high on life. He a completely different place because we processed what it meant. Do I still love what I'm doing? Because processing issues, again, is the number one thing to learn. Working hard. Should I work hard? Should I not work hard? It's a processing issue. Integrity. What if I lie to this person? I should probably lie to this person. But if I lie to this person, what if that other person lies to me? What if I lie to this person now, and later on we have a relationship, and then they find out that I lied to them, and the next thing you know, I'm getting a divorce. Do I want to get a divorce after having 3 kids, and then I have to do child custody, all this other stuff? Man, it's better off me not lying. I just better off be open with them right now, so I don't have to worry about the headache. Integrity. I'm doing business with their person. What if I lie to this partner right now, and I tell him I really don't have anything? Because if I tell him I don't have anything, then I have a power play because I tell him I need a bigger salary. Because if he knows that I have more money, and then later on he finds it, then I lose the partner. Do I want to have that? This is integrity of processing issues. If you know how to process issues, there is not a lot of value in lying. So you'll learn if you process issues. Next, working for a nonprofit. Why would I want to help give people money back? I work for that money. Should I give the money back? Well, maybe this money, somebody helped me out when I was younger, and somebody helped me. Well, you know what? I want to give back. It feels good when I want to teach my kids to also give back. Because if you hold on to it, you lose what you already have. If you give it back, it comes back. I want to give back. Let me see how this feels. Oh my God, it felt so good giving back. Processing issues. Money isn't everything. Is money really not everything? My mom keeps telling me, Mom, money's not everything. Money's not everything. But honestly, I watched my mom and dad go through a divorce. So if money wasn't everything, why is it that day and night all they argued about was over money? But now that I have money, I don't think money is everything, but it allows me to use it as a tool to do other things in my life. So is it really You go deeper into it. For every one of these things, gratitude, save your virginity, respect, marry the right. I'm giving you what people are giving me. These are answers that they're giving me. These are not my answers. This is what other people have constantly said. Marry the right person. It's processing issues. This is purely processing issues. Praying, meditating, reading. Somebody asked me, why should I read? We process that issue together, and they said, oh, this makes sense. Why does it make sense to be disciplined? Process that issue. Stay in school. Is it truly to stay in school for me? Why would I want to go to school? So the whole episode we did on stay in school or drop out, and I got more controversy, and Fortune wrote an article about it. Business Insider wrote an article about it. A bunch of people called us to do blogs, podcasts, all these other things. Pat, you really believe 80% of kids should drop out of school? Yes. Why? Go watch the video. 80% should drop out. Yes, 80% should drop out of college. Pat, you're crazy saying that. Never said I'm not crazy, but that's how I process the issue. I don't agree with you. Watch it, then tell me if you agree with me or not. Can we put the picture of that so they know which one it is and where to find it, the link on the bottom as well? Processing issues, avoiding drugs. Why is avoiding drugs? Somebody asked me, I sat down and talked to a couple young guys, and this guy says, well, I like to smoke weed. And I said, you like to smoke weed? I said, tell me why. He says, well, some of the greatest minds smoke pot. I said, tell me the people that smoke pot. Oh, this guy, music, art. I said, what business are you in? He said, I'm in business. What type of business? Sales and da. I said, you want to smoke weed and smoke pot and be in business? I said, what happens when you smoke pot? What do you think it does to you? Slows you down. It does this, it does that. I said, are you a musician? Do you write music? Do you do this? What do you do? So what are you trying to smoke pot for? We processed it together. I said, let's just say it doesn't make sense to smoke pot. When would it make sense to smoke pot? Oh, you know what? But Steve Jobs said you got to do LSD. We processed that together. This other person says you got to, and all these misconceptions that they've read in an article that you got to do this and you got to do that. That process the issue. Does it make sense to do that? Well, I want to do steroids. Why do you want to do steroids? Because I want to go out there and compete, and I want to do this. Okay, if you want to compete and you want to do, get at the highest level, you don't just need to do steroids. You need to go on growth hormone and all that. But do you know the consequences with your body? Are you okay with that? It's processing issues. No, I don't want to. I want to do it because I want to look it for summertime. It doesn't make sense to do it. It's just for body time. So processing issues, compassionate, giving back, slowing down, don't follow the majority. All of this is processing issues, which I call this, the number one thing, is learning how to solve for X. If you work for me, you'll hear me talking about this all the time. Let's solve for X. What's X? The more you look at life like this, everything becomes a formula. Because everything's about solving for X. That's really what life is all about. I talked to a few kids the other day. They came up to me. I was in LA, Van Nuys, doing an event. And a few kids came up to me, and every time this kid comes up to me, I really like talking to this kid. His mom was standing there. I said, listen, you remember what you and I talked about last time? 7, 8, 9-year-old kid. So do you remember what you and I talked about last time? He says, yes, I do. What did I say to you last time? And this was like 5 months ago. He says, you told me pay attention to math. I said, are you paying more attention to math? He said, yes. And I said, here's why math is important. Math is not necessarily about, Pythagorean theorem, all this. Math is about figuring out the formula for life. Math teaches you how to process issues. A lot of times when somebody says, I just cannot stand math. Life is math. Everything about life is math. If you look at life as a mathematical formula, you start solving problems. Everything becomes math. Everything becomes math. So if you look at marriage as a mathematical formula, health as a mathematical formula, you try to figure out ways how to solve that. That's processing issues. Geometry, the whole CP/CTC theorem, that's a processing issues. All the X plus Y equals Z or whatever it is, that's processing issues. Every one of those things is processing issues. So I'm sitting here and I'm telling you all this stuff about processing issues. Some people ask, well, how do I become better at processing issues? What if I want to become better at processing issues? Is there a formula to it. Yes, there's a formula to it. I'm not going to get into all the formula here today. What I will be doing, there'll be a series of processing issues that I'll be taking a subject, okay, marriage, and I'm going to do an episode of processing issues, marriage. And we're going to do a 60-minute episode on how to process issues for marriage. Should I get married or should I not get married? We're going to take money and we're going to process issues for money. How to make the money, why to make the money, should you make the money, why care to make the money, is there value for the money? Really processing the issue both emotionally and logically and going so deep into it that you could make an educated decision saying, this is why I'm making money. Here's why I'm doing it for. And I know why. I'm not just doing it because the whole world tells me, let me go make $100 million bucks. For what? What are you making $100 million bucks for? So there is a formula on how to process issues, but if you look back historically and you think about the greatest minds of all time, Socrates, you got, I believe it's Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Alexander. I think it is. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Alexander. Socrates mentors Plato. Plato works with Aristotle. Aristotle mentors Alexander. Alexander conquers 2 million square miles of the world. What did they really pass to each other? What was it? So we call it philosophy. What is philosophy? It's a way of thinking. What is way of thinking? It's really about processing issues. When Seneca comes out with Stoicism, and Marcus Aurelius, who is the empire of Rome, I think from 62 AD to 69, some 7 years is what he is. And he takes Stoicism. Seneca dies because he had to kill himself for what they were going to do to him. And Seneca takes that, and Marcus Aurelius takes Stoicism, and he starts teaching Rome about Stoicism. And people start being more responsible, logical. It changes the way of thinking. And then now that has an evolution. 1,000 years later, 2,000 years later, people are still teaching Stoicism today as a way of thinking. But there was somebody that taught others how to think. If you read the book, one of my favorite books to read, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I like the Gregory Hayes edition? I think it's called the Gregory Hayes. I don't know if I have it here. Anyways, if you message me, I'll message you back with the which one I'm talking about. I think it's a Gregory Hayes translation of Marcus Aurelius Meditations. It's priceless. He teaches you what he learned from his mom, what he learned from his dad, what he learned from his grandfather, what he learned, everything about his life. In about 90 pages, he explains it to you. It's a brilliant book to read. But it's teaching how to think, teaching how to process issues. The sooner, politically, what is politics? When I sit down and talk to somebody and they have such a strong opinion about politics, I'll ask them a question. I said, let me ask you this. Let's just say I give you the best argument right now about your beliefs here. Are you open to changing? No way. I don't have an energy to talk to you about it. For what? For what? What's the point? I said, now, if I challenge this position and you and I talk about it and you disagree, are you going to start name calling, or can we really have a adult conversation? No, we're going to be okay. 5 minutes into it, I see them getting edgy. I said, let's change the conversation. Forget about politics. Let's go to sports. But it's processing issues. And if you truly, and I'm telling you this, listen, I've made so many mistakes in my life, and I don't have all the answers. Far from it. I'm only 37 years old, learning for myself to get more clarity in life. But if there is one thing that gives me peace, is there is the one skill set that I strive to get better in life is processing issues. Hiring and firing people is processing issues. Finding an investor that's an active or a passive investor is processing issues. Deciding how the equity is going to be given up is processing issues. Deciding the amount of money that's going to be paid to somebody is processing issues. Compensation plans, payouts, negotiations with carriers. Why partnering up with this carrier? That's processing issues. Why this carrier doesn't make sense. Why this vendor doesn't make sense. Why move into Texas? Why stay in California? Why pursue this? Why do this? Everything is processing issues. Why should we favor this person at this point of his career on what he's doing? Is he really loving what we're doing? Are we going to make the decision? Is this person only about themselves? It's processing issues. What is the trend with this person? What is the trend with this state? What is the trend with this market? It's not the fact that you have to learn a million things. What you're learning is, throw me as, and by the way, this becomes exciting because anytime that our staff, we have lunch together, this is typically what I'll do. I'll take the most random video that's a subject. Like right now, Google today, what was that one thing?
Robot.
The Atlas robot. What is called the Atlas what?
Atlas.
Something, right? I don't know what it's called. It's called Atlas.
Dynamics?
Boston Dynamics, which is a company owned by Google, launches the first robot. If you haven't seen the video, I highly recommend you go watch the video. It's called Atlas something. Anyway, it's very, very interesting. You see the Atlas, they're kicking him, they're hitting him, he falls down, he gets back up. It's called Atlas, the Next Generation. Very interesting. So what do you do with that? Very simple. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you mean, what do I think about this? You think really the iRobot is going to take place? You think we're eventually going to have a Terminator? You think eventually robots are going to take over the world? You think there's going to be an uprise with robots and all this other stuff? And then you talk about it. What would be the limits with the robots? How could the government control the robots? Will people buy robots? Will people be replaced by robots? Why will people not be replaced by robots? The muscle of processing issues is working. That's what you're doing it for. It's, oh, I can't believe that. Boom, 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 boom. The brain is learning how to process issues. My job as a CEO of PHP Agency, a financial firm, is to teach our leaders how to process issues. Our competitors watch a lot of our content. And our competitors will say, oh, we have an edge on what that, I have a feeling, well, this is why we're not afraid of this. And then some of our competitors will say, hey, what are you guys up to next? What is that thing that I'm hearing about you guys are doing? Well, first of all, our competitors are not really going to know everything we're working on. Some of them say, why do you even produce these content for everybody else? Well, this is what we're doing. We're freely sharing the information out there with other people, but you're not necessarily going to know everything. You got to know there are some things that we have a team here, that's projects that we're working on that not everyone's going to know about, because it goes back to processing issues, because a part of processing issues is about strategies and the type of strategies you put in place. And some of them, maybe it's like you have zero attention on your competition because your attention is purely on what you want to do to develop something that's never been developed before. And what is that? What is that strategy that you have? And the people that you work with typically sit there and say, I buy into this concept. This makes sense. Let's process it together. So again, going back to it, like I started off talking about my two boys. My two boys that I love dearly. You know, any second I have with these guys, it's heaven to me. When they're around me, they're wrestling with me, they're jumping on top of me, daddy, 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 daddy. That's heaven to me. And as a responsibility of a father, I have no idea how much more living I have to do. I have no idea how much more living I have to do. If I can teach these kids how to process issues, and then I'm dead, and they learn how to teach their kids how to process issues, and then their kids learn how to teach their kids how to process issues, then that's a tradition you're creating. And I think the reason why America as a country did so well is because many, many generations ago, we taught each other how to process issues, and the country kept on evolving, getting better. Rockefeller taught the next entrepreneurs how to process issues. Then you had, Chase, and you had Carnegie, then you had all of these guys that kept teaching how to process issues. And that's one of the reasons why we've given birth to so many incredible entrepreneurs around the world that are doing better than the original founder of entrepreneurs. Why? Because everyone's learning on how to process issues from the prior generation. And I think the more we give back, there are many ways to be able to make a better world, a better country, better life for our kids, for yourself, for myself, more exciting, more intense. But it's going back to the one skill of how to process issues. And so stay tuned, because we're going to be doing many more of these series that you'll see the word solve for X, and solve for X will be around the subject of processing issues. And so if you have any subjects that you say, Pat, I wouldn't mind processing these issues together. Here's the subjects that I have that we're going to go through. Let me give you some of them here. Marriage, money, career, your calling, sex, politics, health, overcoming your own vice, drugs. Those are some of the ones that we have in place. Faith, political, friend versus acquaintance. I've already done the school. Fun, having kids, not having kids, what to learn. Those are processing issues, subjects that we'll do. But if there are any one of them that you specifically want to recommend, tweet me, private message me, comment on the bottom here. This is a series that's going to continue as we choose a subject to process together. And it'll be almost like you and I are in a classroom together. And we're getting a whole, not chalkboard, I don't know what we're putting here. We're putting something here that's bigger because we are still transitioning. We're moving all our stuff from California to Texas. So some of the stuff is showing up. Some of the stuff is custom. Our studio's about to be built up. So a lot of these things are coming. But you will see that we will sit there and literally, as if you and I are sitting in a classroom together, when it's 2 o'clock at night in the morning, you're watching this, we're going to sit there and process an issue together for the next few months to come. And I continuously plan on doing this As long as you have subjects that you want to process together, that's a bigger subject of life, we'll be constantly looking into doing that together. So again, if you have any questions about what we talked about today, comment on the bottom, post your questions on the bottom. If you have other people that you think a subject like this would interest, share this video with them and talk about this. Allow this conversation to lead into the muscle of processing issues getting better. And then if you haven't subscribed to our channel, Valuetainment, please do so on YouTube. And even if you watch us on different networks, Entrepreneur Network or some of the different channels that I've put this, my channel is Valuetainment on YouTube. You can subscribe to that channel. And if you want to go to my website to get more content, patrickbaydavid.com, there's a ton of content over there that you can find. With that being said, thanks for watching.